Okay, so let's move to the Delphi surveys. So you know that it is one of the ideas that we are implemented in Harmony. It is the definition of the core outcome sets, and that's important because in our project we are combining the different stakeholders participating in the different diseases. Most of the Delphi surveys has been focused in science or in scientific perspective regarding the disease in clinical or biological characteristics. Now we are also including the patient perspectives and pharma perspective and also the regulatory perspectives in these surveys. And we will have, I hope, 3 presentations. The first one will be made by Dr. Katharina Lang from Charity Hospital in Berlin regarding the AML pilot Delphi round, their selection of the results, and now how the things are moving to going to the round number 2, which is the real Delphi, the definitive Delphi result. Katharina, it's a pleasure to have you here, and welcome, and go ahead, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'm very pleased to give you a short overview of the current status of the Delphi surveys. Now, this is the current state of the Delphi surveys. So for the AML pilot Delphi, the first round is closed. Later, I will show you the results of the first round, and the second round is open. And for the NHL, the MDS, and the myeloma Delphi, the first round is open. The CLL Delphi is under review, but the first round will open very soon. And the ALL Delphi survey is in preparation. Perfect. Now the results of the AML Delphi round 1. The participants, 60% of all participants are clinicians and 26% are EFPIs, 7% are patients or regulators each. As you can see on the right-hand side, participants come from different European countries, but also from countries outside Europe, for example, the US. We asked the participants of the survey for outcomes they missed in the survey. And here you can see the proposed additional outcomes. But none of the named outcomes were named twice. So in accordance to the protocol, no additional outcome was included in the second Delphi round. So 59 outcomes were rated, and 6 out of these met the consensus in criterion. In the protocol, the consensus in criterion was defined as greater or equal to 70% of all stakeholder groups ranked the outcome as critical important, and less or equal to 15% of all stakeholder groups ranked the outcome as not important. So 6 consensus in outcomes are defined, and it's overall survival, complete remission and MAD negativity, progression-free survival, event-free survival, and severe adverse event. Here you can see the ranking of overall survival. On the left-hand side, you can see different colors for different stakeholder groups. So the blue pillars are the clinicians, the orange ones are the EFPIs, gray for patients, and yellow for regulators. On the x-axis, you see how important the outcome was ranked. So it's from 1, not important, to 9, critical important. And the y-axis shows the percentage of votes. So you can see that overall survival was ranked 7 to 9. That corresponds critical important by every stakeholder group. On the right side, you can see a different presentation of this data. On the x-axis, you see the stakeholder groups, and the y-axis shows the percentage of all given votes. And the color of the pillars here shows the section how important the outcome was ranked. So for overall survival, all stakeholders ranked the outcome green, and that is for critical important. The same presentation is shown here for complete remission. And as you can see on the right-hand side, some EFPIs and clinicians, really low numbers, but some rank the outcome as only important, and it's the orange color. But the percentage of critical important ranking was above the required, in the protocol required 70%. This is the same you can see here for the complete remission and MRD negativity. So I don't want to go through all the 6 consensus in outcomes. 53 out of 59 outcomes met no consensus criterion. Neither consensus in nor consensus out. Consensus out was defined by the protocol as greater or equal to 70% ranked the outcome as not important, and less or equal to 15% ranked the outcome as critical important. Here you can see as example the presentation of duration of response. As you can see, this outcome only just missed the required 70% of the consensus in criterion.
Can I ask you something, Katarina? Do you take questions now or after your presentation?
Maybe it's easier after, or is it a real urgent question?
I saw a question from Guillermo. Could you say the number of participants in the AML round 1 survey?
Yeah, I can tell the number of participants. So the clinician was 46 participants. For the EFPIs, it was 21, and patients and regulators each 5. Okay. So okay, so we go to the next slide, and it's the same you can see here for the use of granulocyte colony stimulating factor. And here you can see the blue color of the pillar is not important. So yeah, every color is used. So the next slide, please. Some outcomes here, for example, the intensive care admission were ranked critical important for 3 out of 4 stakeholder groups. And here you can see that patients have rated this outcome as not so important. And on the next slide, we can see the same for relapse, clinical relapse. And so much about the really short overview of the selection of results. And now we come to the current state of the Delphi survey. And this is just, for example, the current state of the NHL Delphi. And as you can see here, the number of participants is unfortunately very low. So 3 clinicians, 1 EFPI member, 1 patient, and no regulator. And this is unfortunately also true for the other Delphis. The lesson learned, what we learned from the AML Delphi and the ongoing Delphis, a real challenge is recruitment. And hopefully we can discuss this later on, and maybe we'll find a solution for this, let's say, a big problem. In addition, every stakeholder group has different requirements. So clinicians would like to have a really short survey. On the other hand, patients want more explanation. So it is a great challenge to meet all requirements, especially because most of the processes are predetermined by the online tool we use for the survey, the Delphi Manager tool. And the tool brought also technical challenges. For example, many emails are blocked by firewalls of some companies, and so on and so on. But to address the main problem, please, all of you, take part of the Delphi surveys and help us to define these core outcome sets. And here you can find the links, you can see the links, and please help us and participate. Many thanks for your attention, and to say something positive, many thanks to the Myeloma Patients Europe. So 57 patients have taken part in the survey so far. Thank you very much for this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. Maybe we can have some questions. I don't know if we can use the raise hands or go into the chat to
Este le conoces tú, cariño, Jesús Mari.
make questions.
Pero construye bien.
I'm sorry, I do not find my raise the hand button. This is Lars.
Maybe it's not activated.
Yeah,
I also don't find in my screen.
yeah. But I can comment. I mean, yeah, thank you very much, Katarina, for nicely summarizing the data, and Guillermo has already also asked the right question. So the main problem is that we have talked a lot about these Delphis. It took a while to set them up and to involve everyone, and now finally they are out. No one is participating. That's more or less the main problem. I think it has something to do with how we get the people motivated, right? For the AML, it worked well at the beginning. It was the first one. We got at least many clinicians to do the surveys. There we had this problem with activating the patient groups. I think as the AML group that was or the patient advocates had like a parallel survey ongoing. I think this was one of the problems at that time. But now for the new ones, also, I mean, there is problems right now. We don't even get the doctors anymore to do the surveys, even though every one of us has like talked to many people and asked them to do it. Yeah, and there we are really looking forward to any thoughts, ideas, what we could do to increase the participation. One of the ideas was also to use half an hour of this session. Let's say we finish at 6 and then have every one of the 73 do 2 of the surveys. That would already help tremendously. Also something to discuss.
Yes, we were discussing this in the steering committee, how to improve the engagement of the different stakeholders, and mainly for these new runs of the Delphi in the different diseases, and we get the agreement for let's say more involvement coming from the different members of the steering committee in order to some way to invite or mainly engage the patients which is maybe the missed value that we have until now. So it is quite important to involve because there are different Delphis than the previous one already performed in the previous panels.
I mean, Jesus, you know, this is a
Rüdiger,
critical
yes.
point. The knowledge of the participants in the Delphi panel. I think I have addressed that before. You know, some of the issues that have to be solved in the Delphi panels are quite complicated and require quite a bit of knowledge. And insofar, not everybody is equal, according to what I see there. I mean, patients represent mainly their own experience, their personal experience, and what they have been told by doctors. FPR, I don't know what the background is, and the same is with regulators. What do they really know, for instance, about minimal residual disease and more complicated issues in omics? So this is also a comment to Lars Bullinger, how he plans to deal with that, and thereby also with Katharina Lang, who gave a nice presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you are raising an important point. I think this is what we have learned, right? That, I mean, this was the big idea of Harmony, the cool thing that we define a core outcome set across all stakeholder groups, right? This was the plan, and this is what we had to fulfill and to comply with the deliverables. But from what we have learned now is that this is a very difficult task, and that perhaps there is a reason why no one has done it before. Because yeah, it's like you said, these are exactly the problems. I mean, if you design a Delphi that all patients understand it, then it's definitely not scientific enough for the FPR purposes. It's not clinical enough for the clinicians. And this is also what I had mentioned when we had the kickoff meeting for Harmony Plus. I think because for the new diseases, we also have to design the core outcome sets. And the question is whether we do a different approach there and do not try to design a survey that fits all well. And in that way, we had to make so many compromises that obviously no one seems to be stimulated anymore to answer the survey. That we rather do one for the doctors only, do one for the regulators only, do one for FPR only, do one for patients only. Then we can also use their language, can use their terms, what they understand, and we do not have to find an expression that might fit for all 4 groups. And then we merge the data. We'll see how that approach goes. But I think definitely for the new diseases, I would have used that approach. For the other one, I mean, we've all been sitting together. We had 2 meetings in London. We had 2 meetings in Amsterdam and in Den Haag. I mean, we had all agreed on that approach. We have all worked together to set up all the Delphis. A lot of work went into them. Yeah, but now we somehow have to make sure people are at least then contributing, that we bring that project to a successful completion. And I mean that for the clinicians, you can click through the Delphi within 15 minutes. So it's not an awful lot of time. But the problem, on the other hand, is every one of us gets so many emails every day where someone asks you to do something. And I think one of the other problems which we had with the platform we were choosing, where you're using this Comet assay platform, as it is approved, validated for Delphi surveys, is the problem that the email links that are sent by that are blocked by many of the firewalls of the participants. And I think as soon as you have, if someone tells you should talk to your IT administration office to let the firewall, to let that email go through the firewall, this is almost impossible. So I think for the Harmony Plus to switch the platform also to do the Delphi surveys might also help. So those are the two big problems. One is the platform, that it's technologically difficult, and the second one is like, yeah, that perhaps it was the wrong approach to try to put all people under one hat, or perhaps it would have been better to go for individual surveys for each stakeholder group and then put the results together. But on the other hand, when we had discussed it initially, we were afraid that this might introduce a bias, that you could not merge the individual surveys well, and therefore we had all agreed to go for this overarching survey, which now also has its problems.
Sorry.
The question I have is,
Yeah.
what's the response rate? I can see you must have sent many surveys, but what was the response rate, especially in the industry? How did they respond? Was it like a very low response rate?
Yeah, I mean, now the new surveys are open for 4 weeks, and for most of them, it's less than
1
or 3 people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least if from each company in Harmony, 1 person would answer the survey, we should have at least 7. I'm miscounting the company.
Lars, may I ask you also to screen the chats? There are some remarks in the chat as well. Was this Delphi survey completed only by patients, organizations, or by individual patients? By Guillermo.
Patients, organizations.
The next remark is from Thomas. Indeed, I don't think these concerns are justified. However, one problem remains. All surveys are in English, so that patients who don't speak English are automatically excluded. Individual patients have completed the surveys, yeah.
Yeah, we know this is a problem. Yeah, we know that issue.
From Sophie, yes, I think AML was very difficult for patients to take part. Was a steep learning curve. The approach has now been improved. And then from myself, I had a contact with a Finnish company also offering Delphi surveys, and their tool looked a bit more advanced maybe, so I will share the name.
Mm-hmm.
And Guillermo shared survey number 2 would be better attended. The last remark is from Katie. We only received the AML one.
Well, now we have the link to be involved in these 4 Delphis. I think one idea could be to circulate to all the attendees in this meeting. Now we are 74, and it was about over 140 inscriptions. So I think we can send circulate these 4 links. They are kindly invited to fulfill the survey and to fulfill the Delphi. In that case, we will improve and we will increase the number of replies.
To add to Jesus, I just shared a link. It's called Projects. All the Delphi surveys are mentioned there individually, and they all include the link.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to add on one part that maybe sharing the experience from Pioneer, which is one of the IMI projects. We also used the Delphi survey, and I can tell you that we followed it up like 6 times before we can get any good response. So don't feel bad.
Okay, that's good. Good to know that we are not the only ones having problems. Yeah.
Resilience is always the word. Thank you. Thank you for this.
No, but I mean,
everybody's invited and everybody has the link because it is included in the chat. So nobody can tell, okay, we were not invited anymore.
I think also if everybody who is participating today is let's say hitting on 2 or 3 of his friends or colleagues to also do one of the surveys, I think this also should help. Yeah, that we at least get the numbers which we had for the AML Delphi, that we can report something at least. But what is the opinion of the others? Do you think so? I mean, you raised an important point, or telling us that the other Delphis were not easy either. Perhaps it might not have to do with that we try to put all stakeholder groups under one or fit all in one Delphi. Should we stick to that approach and also give it a try for, I think for CML it might perhaps, my idea also, my thoughts were a little bit when we now see the myeloma response compared to the AML. I mean, one might be more difficult to get patients involved where it's a more aggressive disease versus to the ones that are more chronic. I mean, this might have to do also on the way patients want to participate in these things. I'm not sure, but the question would be whether we. I would like to get a feeling from the audience whether would like to stick to the approach which we have now taken for the first 5 to put all stakeholder groups to get the opinion from all stakeholder groups within one Delphi, or whether we should go for individual surveys like stakeholder adapted or stakeholder based approaches for the new diseases.
Some help to Lars.
Lars, may I make a comment?
Yes.
Maybe an unwelcome one. I was listening to Katarina's presentation and I was thinking, why are we doing this? Why are we putting in intelligent scientists to pose these questions, get this unsatisfactory response rate? Why are we doing this? What is the impact of this going to be afterwards? Imagine we are not today, but 5 years from now, hopefully in a sustainable platform. Are we going to keep doing Delphis, and why are we doing this? I'm sorry if it sounds a bit aggressive, but I think we've gone out of our way to do it, and I don't think it's going to get any better if we do it separated or not separated. I truly maybe this is the wrong conception of mine, but I think we're doing it because IMI likes that, because the EU has this instrument, the new democratic polling instrument, but it doesn't work here. I mean, I heard some of the responses, and I wish we would be in a face-to-face meeting. Katarina is a physician. I know what she must have thought about some of the answers. What is important, what is not important. I heard something about the number of relapses not important. I said, wow, where is this going to take us?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, on one hand side, I'm with you. On the other hand, I mean, I like the idea to do in Delphi and to involve all stakeholder groups, because we get different views. We see what's more important to patient, what's more important to the other stakeholder groups. It's a little bit like communism. If it would have worked, it would have been nice, right? But no, sorry, but
excellent answer. I'm satisfied. Thank you.
But if we get not feedback and have only little numbers, I'm completely with you. What are we going to do with the data? Are we going to base decisions on that or not? I completely agree. But why are we still doing it? Of course, we have to do it, because otherwise we have to pay back the money to the European Union. And the other thing is also a little bit, I mean, we have put a lot of effort in, and I think the early meetings in London and in Hague, they were really good. They were productive. We were interacting with us. I mean, yeah, we got, I mean, I really understood much better what is important to patients and the other stakeholder groups just by doing the discussion. So I've definitely learned a lot. But on the other hand, we've now set up these surveys, and we somehow have to make sure that we get at least reasonable numbers, that we can, yeah, let's say, at least say we have done it and can make something out of it, that not everything was completely, yeah, for free or for useless or, yeah, wrong.
Lars, sorry, this is Sophie. I don't know if you can hear me. I've been waving frantically for a little while.
Sorry.
Yeah, Sophie. Go ahead.
So I thought I'd just butt in now, but I think it's very important that we revise this. We have revised how to approach patients, patient experts. We've had many discussions, you, Katarina, us, and so on. We have said at the beginning that the approach to engage with patient experts on the AML survey was not ideal. Everybody's agreed on that. It was very clear. We have said it. The patient organizations were involved a little bit too late to rectify and to make suggestions. Fine. On top of that, as everybody acknowledges, that the AML population is a very harsh one, very tough one to crack. For sure, it was going to be difficult anyway. So that plus the fact that it's not in their own language, and we didn't really have time to prime our audience to really coax them in, to really address the huge importance of doing this Delphi survey. All of this went basically against all of us, and that's why we had very few respondents. We've learned a hell of a lot since then. We know, looking at the multiple myeloma respondents, that for a start, they are a very well organized subgroup of patients. Myeloma Europe is superbly organized and have got a very tight community. So we knew that would be working better. Our hope now that we have primed the MDS community as well, it's not going to be as easy as for the myeloma community, I know so for sure, but we have primed people a lot better. We know we still don't have stuff in the individual people's languages. We know our community, we know how much some of them struggle with subtleties of language in English, but we're going to do better for sure with the participation of patient experts. I know so. We'll get there. But yes, it is a challenge. It is a big challenge. But I also know that the input that we've had to specify the outcomes that are important to patients is making a difference, and we would not want to relinquish that opportunity to make those changes and to discuss with the researchers, the clinicians, the possibility of tweaking certain things. And I think the language is important. I think it is important for all of us to communicate together and to have a common one. You know, I might have to eat my words if later if the MDS community is not managing to participate in too many, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
So,
I think that the patients are performing very well now with regard to the myeloma. So I'm also not worried that for MDS and for example, also for non-Hodgkin lymphoma, we can motivate them. But we do not only have a problem on we have a problem for all the stakeholder groups, except for the patients at this stage, more or less. But I think, yeah, if we raise awareness and all of us motivate, I mean, if now each of the industry members or the FPR people, I mean, if they again mobilize 2 or 3 people from their company, and we really push hard our colleagues who work in the field of myeloma, I'm sure we can get to reasonable numbers that we really can come up with a result that we also can report and where we can learn something from.
Well, we also, you know, connect very nicely with lots of MDS clinicians, and we can personally, each one of us patient experts and patient advocates can put a little gentle pressure on certain clinicians to personalize their invitation and say, look, we really, really do need you on this. We know how they work, we know their commitments and interest and so on, so we can push a lot more on that. I think we're in a better position, much better position now than we were at the beginning of the AML survey.
Yeah. Okay, so but I like your positive feedback and that your optimism. This is what we definitely need for that project.
We'll try, yes. Lars.
Yeah.
Okay, Tamas. Tamas. Oh, sorry, Tamas was raised the hand. So Tamas,
Farsad.
Later, Farsad. Okay, that's okay. Okay, Tamas.
Basically, Sophie has explained most of what I wanted to say. Also, asking all stakeholders was decided in London 3 years ago, maybe. So quite a long time ago, and I don't think it's a good idea to revise and abandon this this process with all the difficulties, or despite all the difficulties. By the way, I grew up in a country which called itself communist. And I probably have a very different perception about this, but but I think it is, even if it is difficult, even if there are hiccups, it's a very meaningful process for everyone to see that we have to and we can work together. So I would be not just more optimistic, but also less sarcastic about the whole process than your tone has been so far. So I think it's going well, even with the difficulties. And it's not empty optimism. It is a process, and we are playing a pioneering role in this process. And I think it would be very disgraceful towards patient communities if we just abandoned this, saying that, well, it doesn't make sense because it's difficult. It is difficult, so what?
I hope I was not sarcastic, right? If you
was me
as sarcastic, then please, then you got me wrong. Sorry for that.
No, I think we are continuously trying to improve, and in fact, we are running now 4 Delphis. So in fact, we didn't abandon this idea. The question here is how to improve this, how really to increase the number of the participation of the different stakeholders. Farsad, please.
Yes, so So I think it could be as simple as people did not receive the link or the invite, to be honest with you. So Katerina, great for you showing some of the results, and Lars, thank you very much for bringing that up. I just went to the link that Helen just sent to us, and it's these Adelphi surveys are pretty straightforward. We can certainly nudge. I'm going to complete the hematologic malignancies that I'm familiar with, because I'm not familiar with each one of them. So out of respect for not fudging the results based on things I don't know, I'll focus on things I know. But there's colleagues, researchers, physicians within Pfizer that are involved in some way, shape, or form with Harmony as well that we can nudge. So and Tamas is right. I mean, the beauty of our consortium is that we have got clinicians, industry members, we have got patients who are, at the end, we are all going to be one day patients, or we know people who are patients, but patients are there, and they are the ones we're doing all this work for. So it's great that they have their point of view heard, and regulators and so forth. So, I mean, it could just be, like I'm saying, it could just be people were firewalled from the links and the invites. So with the link that we have received from Ellen, maybe that could improve a little bit of the response rate. So I will shut up now.
That's great. Let's try to involve more people. Okay. Okay, any other comments? Or if not, maybe we can move to the next presentation. I hope that is ready. I don't know if it will be Tamas or Renate, or you have some slides to show, Tamas? Renate?
I don't have slides.
I think we only have one. We had one presentation.
Okay. So in any kind, in this way, maybe you can use this time just to provide a, let's say, much more overall view from the patient perspective or from the pharma perspective in case of Renate.
Renate, you want to start, or shall I just
Tamas, it is up to you to start.
So
please
it really is
go
just
ahead.
Yeah, it really is just a few sentences from me, because Katarina has covered it so well in her presentation, and there isn't any additional data that I could provide here. I think that we've really learned a lesson also on the patient side. I also would like to point out that there was a tremendous challenge with the first Delphi, because indeed, as Lars mentioned, there was a parallel survey, a massive survey running in the AML community, and they simply could not handle this additional challenge. So even though we tried it several times and there were reminders, but I don't even think that I should be very apologetic about this, because then what happened afterwards with all the revisions and the discussions and the talks and the outreach to the patient communities shows that actually it does work. So that in case of myeloma and also with MDS, this is no longer such a major challenge as it was before. Maybe it would make sense indeed to look at a different tool, which is a little more straightforward. However, I also understand that this is what we have now. So if we need to work with this, then we will work with this. And with Ellen and with Katarina, we also did some work to improve at least the environment in which the Delphi is situated, so that it's more forthcoming and it's easier to handle for the patients. On the other hand, we find within the patient communities that it has had a very positive impact, simply because people start to understand slowly that they are being taken seriously and they are being heard or listened to. And I think that's a major step forward, which also contributes to the empowerment of the patient communities which then down the line will contribute to their better health outcomes as well, as we know. But also it helps them build capacities. It gives a structure and a meaning to certain work streams, which can keep the communities together, which is particularly important in these times when we are not able to meet. So patients are not able to meet either. So it is a challenging time. So if there are concrete projects which help channel people into activities, that always helps. So I really think that it's been a meaningful project with all the difficulties. But if you think about the entire consortium and everything that it does, it is difficult, and there's a lot of pioneering work happening. So I would not shy away from this particular task. So all in all, it's been hard work, but also pleasurable. Renate, over to you.
Thank you, Tamas. So I have to say that Lars, Katharina, and myself, we had worked very closely together in the last weeks and months. And we also did the preparation for this call. Referring to the FPR members, we realized that there's a quite high turnover, and to follow up with all the respective addresses, email addresses, etc., etc. So this is quite challenging to have a regular follow-up of the participating companies. I think what I have observed so far is also one thing that everyone is thinking of. I have to be an expert in this disease. I think if I have to come up with outcomes which are important for me or for a specific group, I think we have also to think about what is really important and to use also sometimes the gut feeling, and then to put this all together into perspective. So I think you don't have to be necessarily an expert. I think for patients, we already saw that there are other aspects more important than the pure clinical aspects. So probably we should also use more our so to speak, our feelings, impressions, what will be important for us from the different perspectives, and to convince or to inform the colleagues, you don't have to be a big expert in that field. So this is also one of my observations which I have done so far. I also wanted to mention that at the very beginning, when we came up with the idea, we had a lot of discussions, and for us, the COMET initiative with the Delphi survey was really the best way to put all the different stakeholder groups together. So that was also one of the big reasons, if I remember it correctly, Lars, that we came up to this Delphi survey and to try it and to do this in the given time, because we don't have a lot of time for doing this, and to come up with an outcome definition, with an outcome set. That's it from my side.
Okay, thank you, Renate. Thank you, Tamas. Linda Vandenberg, want to?
Hi.
Linda, thank you.
Thank you. So I might have missed something, but I think we just focused on the first round of the Delphi surveys, right? And it will be very important to also keep people involved in the other rounds, because otherwise you cannot come up with a result. And so I think Katharina said only there was either consensus in or out for 6 variables, right? So you will need the other rounds of the survey to come up with a meaningful result. So have you thought about that yet?
Katerina?
Yes, that's right. We need the second round because, yeah, only 6 out of 59 outcomes are consensus in. So yes, we need the next rounds, and it's another, let's say, challenge with the online tool that we only can send out the mails, as I mentioned before, but their emails are in the firewall, so not everybody got the message for the second round of the survey. And yeah, there are some issues, some solutions to find, but we work on it. And
so maybe it would be good to communicate about that second round through other communication channels as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, but then there is always a little the problem with then data security, and I mean, on one hand side, we should not know who participated in the Delphi, right? So we cannot really officially send everyone a reminder through a different channel. No. Because you signed up with a platform. So this is one of the problems, and one of the other problems, as it took us a while to complete round 1 for the AML Delphi, many of the participants from round 1 are, for example, not there anymore because they were working for, like, for example, the FPR members, right? Many of them already are out of Harmony again because, yeah, there's a quite considerable turnover in participants. Yeah, this is also something we have to discuss for the other surveys, whether we can open it somehow also in round 2. Our idea was to start a separate AML survey where we now can also get in the current people involved in AML in addition to the information which we have so far that we do not.
I think, Lars, you are doing an admirable job, trying to do all these Delphi discussions online. This is really difficult. I just remember the ELN management recommendations in CML or AML. I don't know whether you were present there. So there were many sessions, and these sessions also had an educational aspect, because you cannot expect that everybody has the same level of knowledge everywhere. So, by discussing in a panel, of knowledgeable people, where somebody knows something in most areas, that has a highly educational aspect and results ultimately in a higher level of recommendations. And to do this online, I think this is difficult, but as you have started and the outcome was quite interesting, it probably is the best choice just to continue for the time being, but keep in the back of the mind that if Corona is over or we have the chance to meet in person again, we might have a second look at these Delphi procedures in personal meetings. I think there are always more than one. This is a kind, in these discussions, panel discussions, Delphi discussions, there's also a development everybody in the panel is making. Everybody, is learning. They're learning to get to know each other and the aspects everybody has, but they also learn facts. They get a higher level of knowledge. And insofar, I think, I remember Gianni Barrosi and his MPN management. I remember we had 8 or 9 rounds of discussions, and each time something was changed, everybody commented, and then on the basis of these discussions and the comments by those knowledgeable, finally a consensus was reached in almost all aspects. I mean, you never reach consensus everywhere, but if you reach at least consensus in the majority of items, of questions you have asked, this I think would be a good result also for Harmony.
Thank you, Rudiger. Well, I think it's still a work to be performed, to be run, and this second part of the AML Delphi is really important to be in accordance with the items. I also have to remind to all the Harmony partners that for this project, or this part of the project, we are receiving the support of Comet, Paula Wilkinson, which is in some way also taking the advice and providing the advice at any time in how many runs and all of these, in some way, all of these reductions that we have to establish to perform in a Delphi in an appropriate way. So I will close the session here. Thank you so much for attending today and for this productive discussion about the different diseases and also the Delphi surveys.